You want results? Then stop broadcasting your intentions to people who don't matter. Silence is power, focus is your weapon. The more noise you make, the more you leak energy. The truth is, most people talk too much and do too little. They announce every move, every goal, every plan, but champions, real winners, they don't speak, they execute. Most people underestimate the power of silence. They think staying quiet means being passive or weak, but in reality, silence is strength, it's control, it's discipline. When you're silent, you stop wasting energy explaining your vision to people who won't understand it. You stop arguing with critics who haven't built anything themselves. You stop trying to prove something to people who were never meant to see your value. Instead, you use that energy to build, to grow, to focus. Silence becomes your shield against distractions and your fuel for momentum. When you stay silent, you take your ego out of the equation. You stop needing applause for every small win. You stop needing approval before you take your next step. You trust your own judgment. You own your journey. You stay grounded in your purpose. That kind of control is rare and it's powerful. Silence is where strategy is born. When you don't announce every goal, you create space to think clearly. You're not reacting to what others say about you. You're not comparing your timeline to someone else's. You're not seeking likes, follows, or praise. You're planning, refining, executing. You're moving with intent. The problem is most people confuse noise with progress. They think talking about success is the same as achieving it. But results don't come from sharing every move. Results come from relentless action, from early mornings, from late nights, from discipline that no one sees. And that kind of discipline thrives in silence. It's built in the background, in moments when no one's watching. In those moments, you shape yourself into someone unshakable. When you let your actions speak for you, they speak louder than any words ever could. People can doubt what you say, but they can't deny what they see. They can question your dreams, but they can't argue with your results. And when your life becomes your proof, you don't have to convince anyone of anything. Your health, your mindset, your performance, they become your voice. That's what makes silence so powerful. It creates mystery, it builds respect, it forces people to pay attention, not to your words, but to your presence. You walk into a room and your energy speaks for itself. That doesn't happen by talking. It happens by putting in the work every single day without needing anyone to notice. Too many people let their words become a substitute for action. They talk big but move small. They broadcast plans they never follow through on. But when you stay silent, you eliminate the pressure. There's no audience to perform for. There's no noise to distract you. You're locked in. You're working for yourself, not for applause, not for likes, not for validation, just for growth, just for mastery, just for excellence. And that's when the real transformation happens. Not when the world is watching, but when it's just you and the grind. That's where power is built. That's where confidence is earned. In silence, through action, without explanation. Focusing on your own growth means cutting through the noise of the outside world. It means choosing progress over popularity, purpose over approval. Most people are caught in a cycle of comparison, constantly measuring their worth by someone else's highlight reel. They look at others' achievements, their lifestyles, their image, and they start to doubt themselves. But when you shift your attention inward, everything changes. You begin to realize that your real competition is who you were yesterday, not who someone else is today. Growth is personal. It's not about being better than others. It's about being better than the version of yourself that settled, procrastinated, or hesitated. And to do that, you need to turn down the volume on external opinions and tune into your own voice. Every time you choose to focus on someone else's journey, you delay your own. You waste valuable energy wondering what they're doing, how they're doing it, or why they're ahead. But that mindset keeps you stuck. It steals your time, your clarity, and your drive. Growth doesn't happen by watching, it happens by doing. It happens when you stay committed to your own process, no matter how slow or invisible it might seem. It's not about having all the answers, it's about showing up every single day and refusing to quit. It's about setting your standards not based on what others expect, but based on what your future requires. You stop seeking validation because you know your worth isn't up for debate. The truth is, people will always have opinions. Some will doubt you, others will try to shape your decisions, but if you live for their approval, you'll die by their criticism. And that's why focus is everything. When you stay locked in on your mission, distractions start to lose their power. You begin to separate what matters from what doesn't. You stop reacting and start creating. You stop copying, because real growth doesn't come from following trends. It comes from mastering fundamentals, from practicing your craft, from building your mental toughness, from doing the hard things no one claps for. That's what builds character. That's what builds confidence. You need to understand that growth is not loud. It's quiet. It's messy. It's often lonely, but it's worth it. When you focus on yourself, you take ownership of your habits, your mindset, your environment. You stop blaming others. You stop waiting for things to change. You start changing yourself. And the moment you do that, you become unstoppable. You're no longer distracted by what others think of you. You're driven by what you expect from yourself. And that shift in focus turns you from reactive to intentional, from scattered to strategic. The world will always try to pull your attention in 1,000 directions, but the ones who win are the ones who stay grounded in their own lane. They don't chase hype, they build substance. They don't seek attention, they build momentum. That's what it means to focus only on your own growth and ignore the noise around you. Discipline is never built in the spotlight. It's forged in quiet moments, far from praise or applause. When you isolate yourself from distractions, you create space for true growth. Most people surround themselves with noise, social media, constant messages, entertainment, mindless scrolling, and then they wonder why they feel lost, unfocused, disconnected from their goals. The truth is, you can't develop discipline in chaos. You need clarity, and clarity comes from silence. Isolation is not about cutting people off or becoming antisocial. It's about choosing your priorities over your cravings. It's about putting your mission first, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable, because that's where discipline begins. Not when it's easy, but when it's inconvenient. When you remove distractions, you're forced to face yourself. No more excuses, no more blaming others, just you and the truth. Are you consistent? Are you doing the work? Are you showing up even when no one's watching? That's the test. That's where real discipline is born. Anyone can grind for a day. Anyone can be motivated when they're being cheered on. But what happens when it's silent, when there's no feedback, no recognition? That's where most people quit. That's where champions begin. They don't need attention. They don't need rewards. They do the work because the work needs to be done. And they keep showing up because their future demands it. And that consistency in silence stacks up over time. It builds momentum. It creates results. Isolation helps you strip away the unnecessary. It forces you to focus. You stop wasting time on things that don't serve you. You start asking better questions. You begin to notice patterns in your behavior. You catch your own excuses. You build self-awareness. And with self-awareness comes self-control. You start managing your time, your emotions, your choices. You no longer rely on motivation to take action. You rely on your standards. And those standards rise every time you follow through without being told, pushed, or praised. That's the essence of discipline. It's not about intensity. It's about consistency. It's not about how hard you go one day, but how committed you are every day, even when the excitement fades. Distractions make you forget what matters. They pull you into the lives of others and keep you from building your own. Discipline pulls you back to purpose. It keeps you grounded when everything around you is spinning. In isolation, you learn to say no to what's easy and yes to what's right. You become the type of person who keeps promises to themselves, and that kind of person is rare That kind of person stands out not because they're loud, but because their results are undeniable. Every rep you do when no one's watching, every early morning, every late night, every time you choose to grind over comfort, you're becoming stronger, sharper, more dangerous. That quiet consistency builds an edge that most people will never understand. They'll see the outcome, but never see the process, because the process happens in isolation. And where the work is done, like that's where discipline lives.